Hello friends, hope you are well. Welcome to this week's Dirt Report. Some of you may be wondering why there wasn't an episode last week. Well, I said to myself I haven't taken a break in a while, so I'll take that weekend off, and at least once a year anyway, specifically on my birthday weekend. And I was dusty the next day, so I took the rest of the week off too. Also, State of the Beanstalk will be back to normal next Friday, so welcome back to your regular programming. Welcome to the Dirt Report, tech and telco news from all around Australia with some international tidbits. It's time to get on the train into News City. On the first stop, we have two NBN Co pricing models in discussion after a third was thrown out. The Victorian government invests in the NBN and the police finally get extraordinary online powers, and no, it's not the band. Then on the international tidbits, we have Apple kneeling down to developers in their Apple Store fight. What have they done to help? Thanks for jumping in. Make sure to like this video if you did, then smash the red subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support us, check the description below in the comments for some useful services. Let's get started by rolling the intro. The NBN pricing review is heating up. You may remember that back in June, NBN Co threw a curveball and said, here, you asked for it so you can have it, flat pricing, but we will bump up the price every year. Now with that passed and RSPs not really keen on yearly price hikes, we come to three solutions to the pricing problem, or rather three pricing models. This week, one model was already voted off the island. It looks like the plan was one that would have kept the status quo, but with some sweeteners. Some of the old under-the-table kickbacks. Well, our noble RSP said no thanks. We don't want the same but sweeter, we want a new dessert altogether. Now we're all down to two models. You see, RSPs, or rather the very big players, want a single flat model sales rate. And if you watched my latest interview with Damien Ivory from Launtel, you may know that such a deal is only good for the big RSPs, leaving the independents to suffer. The current structure of fixed bundle costs with variable costs on top, depending on usage, just isn't something RSPs want anymore. The lack of assurity each month is causing them a lot of issues. Released this week, the ACCC shared the meeting summary from the August 12th meeting. This was the product and pricing workshop. Here is what went down. The group agreed initially focus its work program on developing two product and pricing models. Three was apparently a crowd. They also agreed to set a principle or scorecard against which to assess them on. One model involved flat rate charges, while the other retained some volumetric components. The group will commence work on developing these products and pricing models with a notional value for the average revenue per user requirement used as a working assumption until more detailed estimates are available. The working group expressed interest in undertaking the proportional split of the NBN cost base between costs that they are relatively fixed and those that scale with additional network utilization to assist in this work. The working group also expressed interest in keeping each product and pricing model at a simple and straightforward level while maintaining support for retail differentiation. That's the important part, otherwise independence will be left in the dust. One participant outlined certain issues that should be addressed, including the removal of CVC charging, the design of more open access products and pricing to meet retail needs, measures to ensure the delivery of the product quality that consumers expect, and the need to appropriately address discounting practices, especially about the big boys. Certain aspects of the current supply arrangements regarding fiber to the node services were also identified as priority areas for reform. It may look like fiber to node could be separated and treated differently than fiber, where the delivery of service is much easier and faster. This could also mean that there may be a price fluctuation depending on what technology you're using. If the RSPs pass the price variation to the consumer, that's another question. Let's move on. The Victorian government has been watching the NBN from the shadows, wondering when will it all come to fruition. Well, frustrations have set in and it was time to step in. This week, Victoria has announced a landmark agreement that will commit $73 million to establish the Victorian NBN State Program Fund. The funds aim to co-invest in projects that will deliver more fiber and faster broadband services to more areas in Victoria. The fund will also act a little bit like America's best healthcare provider and insurer, GoFundMe, where you pay into a fund and it gets paid out to those in need of life-saving medical assistance. But in the case, it will be faster internet. Under the terms of grant, the first project, the NBN Co and the Victorian government will co-invest and will create 11 new business fiber zones in Benalla, Colac, Cranbourne South, Dormana, Hamilton, Lara, Pakenham North, Pakenham South, Portland, Warrangai, and Warrangai in Verloc. You guys might have to help me pronounce those. The great leader Stephen Rue of the NBN Co said, "Since completing the construction of the NBN network, we have focused on directing further investment to network upgrades that will continue to enhance the capabilities of the network across Australia. We are delighted to work with the Victorian government to identify opportunities to co-invest in the development and delivery of new NBN network infrastructure to support the Connecting Victoria program. Small and medium businesses are the backbone of our great nation, and ongoing network investment to enhance digital infrastructure in Victoria will create jobs both in the medium term during the design and construction process, and over the long term by stimulating greater productivity and the pro-libertarian of stronger, more vibrant digital economy in Victoria." So RSPs will be able to offer approximately 10,000 Victorian businesses located within the 11 identified outer metro and regional areas, business-grade fibre connections and no upfront build costs from NBN Co. Plus, if the RSPs sign up for a 3-year enterprise Ethernet plan, there's no upfront connection costs either. The only caveat is that regardless of the retail service purchased, the actual wholesale speeds delivered by the NBN Enterprise Ethernet product, it will be no more than 952 megabits a second due to the equipment and network limitations. Thanks, NBN Co. Let's move on.
Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you.
Yep, every breath you take, every move you make, every photo you tag, the police will be watching you. Now, I'm no musician, but even I can tell this doesn't sound great. I mean, both that clip and the story. The Surveillance Legislation Amendment Identify and Disrupt Bill of 2020 got the final tick of approval from the Senate on Wednesday, and after only 60 amendments. How quaint. I have linked the PDF of the bill below. It's quite the read, and the bill grants the Australian Federal Police and Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission 3 new warrant types to help fight serious crime that is helped by anonymizing technology. What does this actually mean? Well, one of the warrants, called Account Takeover, lets police take control of your online account to gather intelligence and evidence. That is, only if you're doing some serious crime, of course. If you are only doing non-serious crime, for example corruption as a New South Wales Premier, then that's all okay. Further to that, the other powers allow them to add, copy, alter and delete data to disrupt your criminal activity. The only saving grace, if you can call it that, was the 33 changes called out by Labor out of the 60 that limited the potential misuse and improved oversight. This covered the criteria of what reasons the warrants would be issued for. Example, instead of the classic Jack Bauer justified and proportionate, the police has to prove it's reasonably necessary and proportionate. Here is what the Shadow Home Affairs Minister Christina Kennelly said. The Intelligence and Security Committee heard concerns the experts that this is too broad a focus for those powers and encompasses too many minor offences, and that's why Labor added additional comments to see that this bill is tied to a serious offences. It would be important constraints on the use of these new warrant powers, and it would limit the application to offences that carry a maximum of at least 7 years in jail and other specified offences. Other senators called the bill terribly flawed. In fact, Greens Senator Linda Thorpe said it is leading the country to a surveillance state. Can't wait to hear the story was the rogue cops mess with their ex's Facebook accounts. But I digress. Lastly, I would like to add that these warrants sound like they're coming from a judge. Well, they're not. No judge or superior judge is needed to sign these off. They can in fact be issued by an administrative appeals tribunal, and that's just a few rungs down. The government is saying that this will give our security agencies the edge over serious crime, and it may. So the question to you is, at what cost? Let me know your thoughts on this bill below. Let's leave the nanny state behind and jump into international waters, then get rescued by a Japanese whale research ship and have a nice meal on the deck from some of the already dead whales they found just floating on the water, and get dropped off at the closest port, the port of news. No clue where I was going with that, but let's talk about Apple. Apple's fingers are right now destroying a lot of pies. Their privacy hard-on is wreaking havoc across what privacy really means, and all the while the antitrust-like lawsuit with Fortnite creators is brewing. And then there is the other lawsuit brought on by small developers. This week, Apple took the first step to solving the lawsuit by striking a deal with the plaintiffs. Apple has gone and promised to loosen the App Store restrictions specifically for small developers, those earning less than $1 million annually from their App Store. You can all thank the steps towards the light on Fortnite developers Epic Games. Their lawsuit has pushed Apple to fold. However, this small case has also depended on the Fortnite one at the same time. For this particular case, the deal includes communication controls for developers to communicate with their customers, extensions on the 15% off commission deal for small developers, However, Apple still maintains apps on the App Store are not allowed to use the user's information to then get them to buy their services outside of the App Store. No deal, developers, you have to do it on your own with your own mailing list. You can't use people signing up to your app to then market to them. Nope, not at all. The good thing is that these amendments are going to apply to everyone, not just developers based in the US. Nonetheless, the 30% commission cut that Fortnite is fighting over is yet to be settled. Let me know your thoughts below. Is 30% too much commission to charge for an app store? And should apps be allowed to bypass the Apple payment system? I have to admit that having Apple deal with my subscription to apps makes it easy to cancel and see what I'm actually subscribed to, so I kind of like it, because this is all in one, right? And on that epic lawsuit, we have to end this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like this video if you did. Tap that subscribe button if you would like to support us. Check out the links in the description below. And thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in another one. Bye!